Hello and welcome to our next text demo. All right, so in this tech demo, what we are going to be doing is we are going to look at Pathfinder panel and building a little more complex tree than we did in our very simple one, taking advantage of it, but still working very simple, basic shapes in here. So I'm going to start off with by selecting my rectangle tool, and we're going to build this in two parts. We're going to build a trunk, and then we're going to build a canopy and show off some of the features of the Pathfinder tool. So let's start off with a nice brown color. Start to drag this out here. And I've got my rectangle tool selected, and I can drag out basic little shape like that. And I can hit A or my direct selection tool, and we can kind of make just a little basic kind of wedge shape on that. Now, I can keep, I could use a pen tool for this, but trying to just stick with basic rectangles, we can make several of these of different kind of branch shapes, and kind of want to show you how you can kind of play around with this um, Pathfinder tool to kind of get some quick ideas out when you're working on this. So I'm just going to make myself several branches here that I can kind of work with. And then I'm just going to grab my move tool, and let's grab them and start to kind of work them into some type of tree branch shape here. So we'll move this here, that guy there, this guy here, and so on. So I'm just going to kind of put these into some kind of rickety tree shape for my trunk. And then we can add some more if we want, or we can decide if we got enough. So just using the rotation tool and just very basic rectangle. And again, I'm using the rotation here. You can also, grab the handles and so forth. Like I really want to have a little bit more of a wedge, and so forth. You can. Up to you, really. So just trying to get the basic tree shape kind of going in here. Large for this high up on the tree. So I'll take that one and bring it down. So, and again, kind of just shift them around, whatever feels most natural there. So right now we've got kind of our basic, slightly advanced, simple tree shape. But this is, as you can see, one, it's on the wrong layer. It all appeared on treetop. So I'm going to grab all of these right here and drag them down to my tree trunk layer, like so. And what I need to do is find my Pathfinder panel, and it's right over here. Let me get my zoom tools up so I can highlight that for you. Always likes to hide that tool for me. So right over here, mine I've got windowed over in this panel. This is kind of my personal style of where I put my tool sets. It is not always over here, but what you're looking for is the Pathfinder panel. And again, if you don't see it, go to your windows up here inside of Illustrator and drop it down and come looking for Pathfinder. You can see here they say Shift Control F9 on a PC platform. So I'm going to clear those drawings out of the way, and you're going to see we have several different options inside of this. So this first one here, if I grab my arrow here, is going to combine them together. The second one is going to subtract the background from the front. The third is going to be the intersection of them. And then this one is going to be the negative. And then you have other ones that will cut and slice them, leaving both pieces, and or do the reverse of that. So how does that look? Well, let's start with just selecting two of these pieces so you guys get an idea and a feel for it. So I've got this piece and this piece, and I can see kind of how they overlap. And if I looked at this from a vertex standpoint, you can see it's got a lot of useless overlapping polygons, and they're also separate pieces. So if I want this now to be one solid shape, I would grab both of them. It doesn't matter if I grab A or B, B or A in this case, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here and do the combine. It's the very first one here in my Pathfinder. And you'll notice that outline changes that outline to the outline there. And I'm going to change the layer color here so this shows up a little bit better in the video for you guys here. Let's change it to this bright blue so you can kind of see how that's now changed over, and you can see how that's now a simple one. So if I want to do the same thing for the other big trunk, I can grab this here, and you'll notice that it's got this major zigzag pattern overlap. So if I grab all of that and I hit the Pathfinder tool again, I'm over here in Pathfinder. Those that missed it where I clicked, right there, I'm going to click on that, and I got to get my zoom tool to let me click on it. There we go. And that combines them. So you'll notice now, still looks the same from the silhouette, but that's now one solid piece for me. inside of that. Now that's going to be great. Now, if I needed to, like, say, have like a little hole for a tree or for a tree squirrel or something to be inside of it, let's say I wanted to have a hole in the center, let's make this a little oval hole and we make it black. Now, if it's black, that's great. It's filled. This could just be sitting on top of it. But let's say you actually wanted to see something behind it, then you could choose to select it, select that one, and then hit the next tool over, and it actually subtracts that out of it. And that's kind of great for things like windows and so forth. But since I don't want that in my tree right now, I'm going to undo that and I'll just delete the shape there. Let's go ahead and combine a couple of these. Now, one thing I like to do when I'm working on trees and using simple shape, I don't like to connect them all together until I'm happy with the branch, because sometimes you get a really good branch, but you attached it a little too close. So what I would suggest doing is get your main trunk done and then work on branches as groups. And you can select multiple ones like this all together. You'll see like so, and you can click them all together and have that be a branch, and then be like, okay, that's kind of good, but see, if I had attached it there, it wasn't quite where I wanted, so I can still take and rotate that whole piece around like that. And again, if it rotates not where you want it, this will be covered in advanced video, but notice how it's kind of rotating from the center. If you guys want it to rotate like from this pivot point, grab your rotation tool. It's this guy right over here. Let me clear my previous zoom drawing there. Just come over here, click on the rotation tool, and when you're on rotation, gotta exit my zoom tool to be able to do this efficiently. There's a little dot here, and that's the center point, and you can kind of see I'm dragging it around right now. If I drag this right here and then go to rotate, that allows me to drag that from that point. So that's how you can kind of control that pivot point. So just a little advanced tip right now, but don't worry too much about it. We're going to get back on track here. So let's go ahead and get the rest of our tree Pathfind together. So let's combine those two. And this guy is all by himself. So I can either attach all of them all together, or if you want to be able to use this, let's say you wanted to have different trees and you wanted to keep the tree trunk the same, but maybe the branches you're going to alternate. So you might want to group the rest of these instead of combining it all into one piece. Like the goal is not to, have it be a single piece, but to have it be the most flexible, but the most manageable for your art. So go ahead and I'm going to grab all these layers here, and you can do that either by individually selecting them inside the view panel like this, or if it's easy enough inside your viewport, like dragging a selection box, you can do that. And you can again go object group, or I'm just going to hit Control G, and you'll see over in my layer panel that grouped it. And I'm going to change that to be called tree trunk, just to be consistent there. All right, so next up is our canopy. All right, so for our canopy, not to get too carried away with this, but we can sit there and create a couple little leaves here, and I'm just going to draw several of these here. And as you go, you can kind of rotate it around if you know you're going to be like putting them in different angles and so forth to save yourself some time. So, so kind of get different shapes and so forth going in there. And like I said, it gets a little cumbersome, so I like to kind of get a couple pieces made and then start playing around with rotating them. Some basic shapes going on inside of here. You can flip them, object transform, and reflect it, and you can go horizontal, vertical, so forth to kind of do that, or you can take it at an angle if you'd rather. Kind of place them all around. So I start to get some basic leaves out, and that's lots and lots. And of course, I forgot to switch to my correct layer. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab all these guys and move them up to treetop so that they're not residing on my tree trunk there. And depending on how you get these pieces in here, you might find that, oh, okay, let me group this together and see. I'm not going to weld them all together first, but let's just group them. Control G to group that. You can see I've got a basic group, and I can kind of bring it over to my tree and start to go, all right, let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. So now let's clone that whole group over here, and we can rotate inside and scale this different ways. Now, as you start to build up the look of your tree, you might find that it gets a little too dense in the middle and so forth. And this is where your Pathfinder can come and play too. So I kind of go here. that guy. And before I start combining them together, I'm just going to make a copy of one of these outside my group here. I'll hide it, or actually I'll just drag it down so we can have it reference. Down here. And I can start to go, all right, let's see. Now, if I try to subtract from these, they're all individual ones. So let's start to weld some of these tree bits together. So I'm going to grab the whole group, let's say here, and here, and here. And if I want to ungroup them now and just kind of make that one solid canopy, because you can see there's a lot of overlap, a lot of things. You can ungroup by hit Control-Shift-G. That's going to expand the whole group. You can see that over on the right-hand side there. My layers are way head down scrolling off the page. And I can just weld these all together into one solid canopy here. So now I can kind of twist and adjust this a bit, kind of get to be where I want this to be. And now I can say, all right, that's all right, but it'd be kind of nice if I had a couple little pieces in there that poked holes. So what I can do now is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to ungroup that safety group that I had. And let's just take, maybe a couple little examples of leaves out of it. So let's grab maybe this little cluster here. I'm just going to clone it up here. Now, to make it easier on yourself, what I would suggest doing before you subtract it is make it a different color. I should have done that before I ungrouped it. So I'll hit Control-Z and I'll just make these all black so we can see them easily, like so. Then we will ungroup them again. And what I can do is just grab these here and I'll just make a copy like so. And that's going to be a pretty big hole. So I'll actually shrink these down a bit. And maybe hit it a bit and say, okay, what if I had some little bit of holes poking in through here, like smaller leaves, kind of blinking it out through here. So I'm going to weld them together so they're one piece so it's easy. Now be careful, you'll see little bits like this. That'll be some cleanup we may need to do later on. But I can kind of say, all right, let's maybe poke a hole out here and see kind of what we get if I like that or not. So with that selected, I like to work non-destructively. So let's hide all these. I got my canopy here. It is pretty destructive, so I always work with a clone of this. So I've got a clone of my canopy here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the first one, subtract the second, other way around. And you can kind of poke holes out of them and kind of see, all right, do I like that? Do I not like it? And you can, like I said, you can get in there and you can clean it up. So like we have this little nasty piece in here, just come in, double click, you can clean that up. And then you can work with your curve tools or your other tools to kind of fix out some bits like we had here where it's kind of exposing maybe the top of the branch where we didn't want it. Kind of piece it together. And that's how you can kind of get some holes and shapes inside there. And then again, kind of come in through and you can do the same thing, tweaking your trunks and so forth like that. So as you start to play with the Pathfinder tool, you'll find that you can get very creative very fast. Again, the benefit of vectors is that they don't have any finite resolution, so you can do like I'm doing here, cloning areas and kind of manipulate them, rotate them around. If you get too many, delete, cut some stuff off, kind of see what you like that's getting too solid and so forth in there, and have some fun with the basic tool and start to build up the complexity as you go instead of trying to jump straight into very detailed, kind of get the shape and the silhouette. And the nice thing about working with the Pathfinder tool is you can kind of keep checking that and quickly grab everything and set its foreground color to be black if you want to see, is that still reading or is it reading like a tree? Maybe not so much kind of a weird shaped bush. So I'd be wanting to kind of refine that as I go along. All right, guys, that's everything for today. Keep an eye open for the next one and we'll have a good tech day.